Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast, where we embark on a journey through our diverse Texas landscapes and breathtaking trails while always engaging with our amazing Texas hiking community. So settle in, tighten up those bootlaces, and get ready for the thrilling tales awaiting for you on this episode. Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast. I'm your host, Jason, as always. And today I have a very exciting, hopefully couple of episodes. And I can't believe I have legends, 3 legends on the podcast, hiking legends that are sitting across from me virtually. John, Greg, Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
the
having
invite.
me.
So I don't know that I could have started this podcast journey without having you guys as guests. I know from my experience, if I look at everything that I've done in the hiking world, you know, the adventure we had hiking the longest trail in Texas is up there as one of the most sentimental hikes for me. And so, you know, I think for our listeners, it would be very interesting and kind of just reminiscing on that adventure and, you know, like kind of giving your opinions on how the hike went, how the trail was. So, yeah, I mean, like before we start that, you know, I definitely wanted to kind of take a step back and just kind of give the listeners an introduction of before we started on the Lone Star Hiking Trail, basically kind of what your feelings are about Texas hiking and backpacking. Also to the listeners, and you will be able to tell their accents, but John's from Louisiana and Jason's from Arkansas. And, you know, I just want to let you guys know my listeners are very accepting of other cultures and, you know, so,
Yeah.
so we will not hold it against you. You are in a safe space. So, you know,
I was born here, all right? Born in Houston.
No, so just, Greg, if you want to kick us off, like, how long have you been hiking and backpacking?
I think my first hike was with you. I mean, of course, when you're a kid, you go around, you're hiking. You call it hiking, but you're playing. You used to play a joke on me from time to time. I'll let you tell that story. But no, my official first hike was Bear Canyon, and I think that was around January of 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I was ignorant, unprepared, overpacked, just you name what you could do wrong, and I did it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and to the listeners, when Greg is a longtime friend. I mean, we grew up together. I think I met Greg when I was in 6th grade. I think when we got into high school, you know, Greg used to do a lot of neighborhood hiking, and and what I would do is I would be at my grandmother's a couple of hours away, and I would call him and say, "Hey, come to my house because I have to show you something really urgently." And so, of course, he would come to my house, and I wouldn't be there. So,
and then I'd get back home, and he'd call again and be like, "Hey, dude, are you coming?" And I'd be like, "I just was there. You didn't answer the door." And I'd go back. It fell for it 100% of the time.
Yeah. So, you know, Greg started his hiking career pretty early. But what about you, Jason? How
I think
how did it start for you?
the first time I actually did like any legit hiking was when I was in Boy Scouts living in Arkansas. And I remember we did like a 4-mile hike, and I thought that was like going to Mordor, you know, like it seemed like so long. And I remember this group of men coming down the trail, and they had been on a 9-day hike. And we just heard them talking about it, and that like blew my mind, you know.
Yeah.
And then I just, you know, I grew up and stopped going to Scouts, and I don't know, got busy with life and really never paid any attention to it. And then around 2019 or something, I started like having panic attacks. That I'm all clear, it's all stopped. I don't have that stuff anymore. I don't know why it was happening, but it was happening. And then I started like, well, I need to get in more shape, and I'd start walking, keeping my heart rate in a certain range.
Yeah.
putting on some distance every week. Like the endurance kept going up. That's about the time that I heard you guys, maybe 2020, 2021, talking about going hiking this trail. And I had already kind of got obsessed around the same time about like the Appalachian Trail, and the PCT, like reading about it, reading books about it, a walk in the woods and stuff like that. Right. And so that was super intriguing to me, but way out of reach. And so the Lone Star Hiking Trail is like the only real like hike of that magnitude I've ever done.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I was also last minute not very prepared.
We're gonna get to all that.
Yeah, that's a schoolie for you.
Yeah, totally underestimated. Like I'm running like 40 miles a week. I got this. I did not have it.
And John, I don't know in Louisiana if they have hiking, but
No, not really. I actually, Greg and I worked together for a long time,
Right.
and he told me about you. He mentioned that the two of you were planning a through hike on the Lone Star Trail. I had no idea what that even meant or what it entailed, but he told me about y'all were doing some like preparatory hikes just to try to get acclimated to it. And to be honest, by all accounts, I should have never really enjoyed hiking based on that first hike that we did.
When I went blind?
Greg,
Yeah.
yes. I think it was 16 miles? My very first experience. And I was wearing the wrong shoes. I mean, just absolutely a disaster. But I really liked the camaraderie, the conversation, the getting out in the woods, just in the elements, doing that. It was a lot of fun. And again, I think we did that for a few months, and then our hike was in January. So I enjoyed it. I was new to the game.
Yeah.
Hiking was never ever something I did. Matter of fact, my first the Lone Star Trail was my first experience.
Okay. So yeah, and I don't even know that if we mentioned it yet. So of course, Greg and I are longtime friends. Jason is Greg's brother. I met Jason. I guess Jason, you were in high school,
Yeah.
and Greg and I had just graduated maybe a few years before you moved down, and then John I met like what you just described on the trail, on the Lone Star Hiking Trail, when we were doing our scouting of the different sections, and you and Greg, you have had a relationship. Y'all work together.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all came about. So, Greg, kind of going back to you, do you still hike? And if so, what's inspired you to keep this journey going?
Well, about 2.5 years ago, I had a kidney removed, and I had cancer, had the kidney removed, and I don't have a lot of oxygen going through my body right now. So I fatigue extremely fast. So I've been cautious about going on back to the Lone Star Hiking Trail. But there's times I go out and walk, and I do it at work a lot, especially in the heat in my Nomex, and I'm trying to acclimate myself again. Plus, as you guys know, we mentioned me going blind. I still have to recover from the heat exhaustion that I had. But no, I haven't officially gone hiking since the Lone Star Hiking Trail, I don't think. Wait, John, did we go to Guadalupe after that?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So that was probably the last time I did it. But no, I haven't done it only because in the past 2 years because of concerns with health.
And how's that coming? Like, do you notice that is this something that you think that it'll kind of be back to normal, or
Oh,
will it
you know
always
me.
be-
I'm too, and Jason was right on the trail. I'm too stubborn.
Yeah.
It takes me about a mile where I'm just fatigued, out of breath, and then I catch a stride, and then I'm okay.
Yeah. What about you, Jay?
No,
Did the Lone Star Hiking Trail ruin it for you, or did you keep it up?
no, it didn't ruin it. I will say, after like that last day when I'm in the car ride back home, just mulling it all over, I was like, I don't need to hike the AT. I don't know if I need to check that one off the box. But now time has gone by, and now it's that still intrigues me. Like it's back,
Yeah.
It was like I thought it scratched an itch, and I don't know that it totally did. But I don't think this is any fault of the hiking, but I had plantar fasciitis. I basically am 95% healed from it. Like it's still to this day.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because when I was running, I did not know that when you put in mileage, hikers know this, your feet grow.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. So for like 2-3 years, I'm running like some serious miles buying the same size shoe. And it caused plantar fasciitis. I went to a doctor where they made me step on this, measurement device and says, your foot should be an 11 and a half, not a 10 and a half. And so So yeah, I couldn't really put in any miles, but I'm just now, like today, I went out for a pretty long run for the first time in a long time. It feels great. So I could definitely see I want to go to the Guadalupe Mountains. I'd like to go up to what's the canyon up there that, Paladero?
Yeah.
Like there's, talking to you guys there that y'all have done, there's some stuff I definitely want to experience. Yeah.
And what about you, John? How's the hiking been since the Lone Star Hiking Trail?
I went through, if you remember, I had to stop our scouting hikes because I had an issue. I had to wear a boot on both feet.
Yeah.
Had some issues, and I was concerned about my ability to go through the hike if I would be healed enough to do it. Fortunately, it was, and I haven't been, like Greg mentioned, the Guadalupe. We did that, but my hikes here recently have all been through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I have a water pack that I carry with me, and I have several routes that I have. They're based on distance, and none of them are extreme. I think my longest one is 11 miles, but I still do those, and I enjoy it. I've worn out several pairs of shoes just doing those hikes. So yeah, I still enjoy it. I would like for the four of us to get back together and we went, how long ago was that? We did that hike in and camped and then hiked out.
Which one?
We had a couple.
We went in on Trailhead 6.
Yeah. That was probably
Greg brought the peanut butter whiskey.
Yeah. Maybe about maybe about a year after our Lone Star Hiking Trail adventure.
What a treacherous trail that all three of us were under for a while after hiking it.
Yeah. It sounds like it did its damage. Like
or that's what you get when you're amateurs.
Yeah. Well, no, let me explain something to the listeners. Lawmanac, for as long as I've known him, he's always been like, he won't admit this, but he always has been a well above average athlete and will challenge you to do something, but not tell you it's going to be a challenge.
Oh, make it sound easy.
Yeah. I'd be like, hey, let's go do this. It's going to be fun. And you get there and you're like, what? I'm broken, but I'm never going to let him know.
Yeah. We're going to get into the Guad trip for sure here in a bit. And that's the classic.
I thought he was going to have to carry me out.
Yeah, so did I. I've never been on a trip where you have, 3 or 4 hikes planned and you only do one.
Yeah.
And, like for me, I just turned 51.
Oh, no, you're 53.
No, 51 because you're older. I don't know what kind of inspired me to start hiking. I know if I don't have a challenge, then I'm laying in bed. Like I don't even do like John, you're the neighborhood hikes and getting outdoors. Like I just lay in bed. I think me knowing that I always, like for me to be outdoors, I always need to have a challenge. And so, yeah, I mean, even to, since, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago when I started hiking and backpacking and kind of discovered my love for it with Lori, it's, I'm just constantly trying to challenge myself. And yes, Greg, you're absolutely right. Sometimes when I challenge myself, I need to probably provide more details.
Yeah, I've often wondered why, like, what all of a sudden got you just full tilt into it, and if you, like you said, like if there was a milestone you had in the beginning, like hike all the major peaks in Texas, or was there some aim that kept you on this regimen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I don't know that. I mean, first, I love the outdoors, and also like when Lori and I were driving to El Paso to dodge that blizzard, and that's how I discovered the Guadalupe Mountains. And at that moment, before then, I didn't care about hiking or backpacking. And you start driving out through the hill country, through West Texas, and start to see how beautiful and lucky we are to be living in the state and how diverse it is. I just kind of got hooked, and then I'm in the car Googling Guadalupe Mountains because I'm like, there's no way there's mountains in Texas. And then it's the high point. Then here comes that challenge, right? Like, oh, I gotta do it. After I did that, then I started researching. Oh, wow, there's 9 peaks in the park that are over 8,000 feet. Oh, I gotta do them. Oh, wait, there's 4 that aren't trailed. So you're gonna have to navigate, read a map. There's danger involved. Oh, sign me up. And yeah, so it's just kind of grown. And also, like, almost every Sunday I'm hiking on the Lone Star Hiking Trail from September to about May. Yeah, I mean, it's always like I'm gearing up. I did a 30-mile day, so now I want to try to do a 40-mile day. So there's always something that keeps me in the woods. And maybe also, I know, John, probably for you as well, it's a stress relief, right? To get away from everything and just, you don't have the pressure.
Did you say a 40-mile day?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, crazy, man.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's that on those walks, that's my time for thinking, clear my head, evaluate situations that's going on in my life, and just quiet time,
Mm-hmm.
nothing bothering you, just one foot in front of the other. You don't have to think about it. There's no stress involved. It's relaxing. So I really enjoy it.
And so, Greg, I know you get out and hike. You guys seen pictures and stuff of going to Paladuro. Are you doing that with the family, with
Yeah.
just you and Carrie, just you?
No, after we had our experience, I wanted to introduce my family to that. So
Yeah.
my children, and you guys that know me, I make my children do everything that I experience. So whether that's yard work or whatever, working on cars, but my wife could be involved in the hiking, and she loves the outdoors and nature and things like that. And it's a really good bonding time for the family.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been to Paladuro. I've taken them to Guadalupe Peak. We chose not to climb the peak that day because when we started, the winds were so strong at the bottom of the peak. I knew that once you make that turn and near the top on the north side, that there's no way they weren't going to do it. And so it wasn't safe. But we did go to Devil's Canyon. Is that what it's called?
Devil's Hall.
Devil's Hall. Yeah, we went to Devil's Hall. They loved that. We were going to plan a trip to Big Bend. Things didn't work out in that period of time. But yeah, we've been to Paladuro probably 4 times.
That's kind of like your go-to. Like you've been there a lot. And if there's a hiking trip, and I had to guess, it would be you're going to Paladuro.
Yeah. It's just because it's not as challenging, and there's a lot of caves. The colors are great. My wife can be involved. My kid I call him a kid. He's a man now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's in the Air Force. So, they have a good time, and it's an easy in and out. And there's a lot of good history there too.
Yeah. So, Jason, have you bought your son a backpack yet? Because I remember we talked, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, you were going to get him a backpack. And then I've messaged you a couple times and asked, did you get a backpack? And you ghosted me. So we just need to follow up. Have you,
that was my way of saying no.
No?
No. So I just don't, yeah. He's getting there. He's getting to the point where I could see us doing that. But I took him out to Trailhead 6.
Yeah.
Just he and I. He loved it, right? He did. He really enjoyed it. He came back talking to his brothers about it. And of course, they want to, go. And so I think this year when things cool off as a family, we'll probably go out there. But after that, a couple weekends, right? I'm like, want to go again? Want to go try a different trailhead? Want to just kind of now. So I'm like, well, then I'm not going to get it if it's just going to sit there. But I was thinking about this recently, actually. And I'm like, I bet you if I get it, he might be more, it's his now, right? It's his stuff. It's his gear.
Yeah.
If I let him be a part of, like I took him to REI to put the weighted bags in there and just to give him, I was trying to explain to him what it was like to hike, with weight on your back for as long as we did. And he couldn't believe it. Like he just can't imagine doing it, I said, no, we'll divvy it up. I'll carry the most of the load or whatever. But so yeah, I think this year is the year we'll probably start doing that.
I tell you what, like when each of I have 4 children. When each of them turned 16, I bought them a backpack and I bought them a tent, and I did the old Greg Schooley, you're going to go do this. And it was, they're not going to have a quinceañera or some special birthday party about them. You're going to check the weather. You're going to pack your own clothes. You're going to pack your own food. And my idea is that, and I'm going to hike the shit out of you. And the goal is to try to say, like, you're starting to become an adult. Life doesn't care. Life's going to kick you in the teeth if it has a chance. So you need to be prepared. You need to, like as parents, I'm going to always be here to support you and help you out, but I'm not bailing you out. I'm not, like you're going to make the bed you sleep in. And
I love that idea of like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
From the point where you're a kid to you're a young man now,
So when it happened, it was like really cool. I have tons of pictures, tons of memories. I made them each a book, and each page had the pictures, but it also has some words of wisdom for me and Lori. I don't know if they've ever opened it after from the time that I've given it to them. Hang on a second.
Denise, we got to make a book for all 3 kids now.
Yes, you have to. Yeah. And I'll show you some examples because it turned out really nice. Yeah. And like as a parent, that's probably the most memorable moment in my life is to see them reach Guadalupe Peak, the highest peak in Texas, see them not quit. I think when Mia and I went, we got out of the car and it was 23 degrees, and she did it. So yeah, Jason, I definitely think, when they get older, there's no question if you want to go do it, it's let's go. We're heading out.
Yeah, I also like that. The older they get, they're more social with their own clique and their own friends. And my oldest is 12, but in just 2 years, we're not as close as we were because he's got his own stuff going on, right? And that's doing things like that. We're together, and we're not interrupted by anything. And I really like that, Yeah.
And John, what about you? After our Lone Star hiking trail, any hikes with the family, your son?
Yes, actually. Well, let me step back. The one that my wife and I went on was actually before and it wasn't really, you call it a hike. It was a hike, but we went to, it was our anniversary in 2020. It was our 30-year anniversary. Mm-hmm. So we went and stayed a week in the hill country. Greg, that was the same weekend I met you. We did Old Baldy.
Yeah.
So we went to Lost Maples, and it's a park. So it's not like a wilderness trail. It's very manicured.
Lost Maples is the prettiest. It's not a state park, but a state natural conservatory. It is beautiful. It is the top.
It is absolutely amazing. My wife had an amazing time. She's not going to get out and do a 10-mile hike carrying a backpack. She's not a camper. Her idea of she will glamp.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
She's not going to camp. So I'm essentially in this by myself. And you guys, I usually go, if I go do a hike, it's going to usually Greg will be there. Jason, you and I went one time, just the two of us. We did a hike once. So
cheaters.
Yeah, I
because they live so close, Greg.
Yeah.
Well, I think Greg, you were invited, but you had something else going on.
Yeah, I had something happening. Yeah.
But anyway, and we went and had lunch afterwards. Jason and I had,
No.
so it was a nice time.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the fam's not into the raw hiking the way
Yeah.
what we do. So it's
So
just me.
so Lori, well, so our first backpacking trip together was at Los Maples, and she has rules. I don't know if you've listened to the earlier episodes, but she's not going to hike over 10 miles. She's not going to hike over 6 miles if there's elevation. And I'm like, okay, well, or a lot of elevation. I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? She was like, I don't know. When my legs start hurting, I'm turning around. And she'll spend one night out in the woods because she figures she could hold it and not poop in the woods, because she's not going to poop in the woods. So if it meets those rules, then she will backpack with me. And let me tell you, you go out to Los Maples and you just look at a map and you're thinking, oh, it's not a very big park. I mean, I don't know if you totaled up all the mileage for the trails. It's, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 miles. It's not, it's not a whole lot, but man, you head out on, I think it's called West Trail, out to Campsite H. It's not an easy hike. It's a tough hike, and especially towards the end with the elevation gain, and you've already hiked 3 miles and carrying all your wife's stuff. It's it's not easy.
Yeah.
Lomnac, there's no way that you have, like, she set rules and you didn't intentionally accidentally break them.
Oh, I tried, because this past October, not this past October, but the one before that, the goal was 18 state parks in 7 days, and we did 15 state parks in 7 or 8 days.
Right. And
so I was pushing mileage. I was pushing nights on the trail. Like, sometimes we had to stop at a gas station between parks, so but no, she was, she was a trooper. She did it. So I was definitely proud of her. Yeah. So, kind of going into the next question, John and Greg, you guys have never been to Big Bend, correct?
Correct.
No.
And Jason, you've never been to Guadalupe or Big Bend, right?
Nope.
All right. So, John and Greg, this is a wonderful question. What is your favorite national park?
I have to say the
Guadalupe Mountains. You're right.
Guadalupe Mountain was that was the most painful experience, but the most gratifying when you get to the top and you're looking out and you can literally see to each horizon in 360 degrees. There's nothing taller than you. There's nothing getting in the way. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's a desert. It's never been a reef.
Yes, it was. Boy, don't even know. We're not going to argue.
Yeah,
I'll remove you from the podcast.
Shut down the podcast.
Yeah.
No, my favorite is Paladuro, just because I was able to take my in-laws there, my brother-in-law, my nieces, my children, my wife, and it's easy on them. And the lighthouse is pretty nice. It's a cool thing to do.
So that's your favorite state park?
Is that a state park?
Yep.
All right. Well, national park. I won't say it's my favorite because you put me through pain, but it's the one I've been to. So we'll say Guadalupe Peak.
That's why this is a wonderful question. It's what I want to hear.
And wait, Garner's a state park.
Yeah, there's only 2 national parks in Texas. So
yeah, I don't have another choice.
Yeah,
you set me up.
Yeah, sure. There's reasons for these questions. No, but kind of like talk about state parks. So okay, Greg, yours is Paladuro just because of the ease of it. What about the drive? That doesn't bother you too much? It's what, 8 hours?
Yeah, it does. I break it up.
Yeah.
I stop outside of Dallas or in Waco. My wife can go to Magnolia or whatever she wants to go to, and antique shop or do things like that. And then we go on. Plus, it's near Jason. You probably know what it's called, where the buffalo are.
Yeah, Cap Rock, my favorite.
Yeah, Cap Rock is nice. We went there with Dylan on the way back from Guadalupe Peak, and I mean not Guadalupe Peak, from Paladuro, and they were disappointed because they had picked up that day like 2,000, not that day, but they picked up like 2,000 buffalo or something. And they said there were none left in the park. So we just decided, hey, we'll drive down, we'll do our thing, and then just take a look at it and leave. And lo and behold, turn a corner, buffalo right in front of the car. And
Oh, wow.
it was amazing. And then there was one off to the side just sitting down, a bull buffalo, bison. I told my wife I was going to go get out and stand in front of it and take a picture. And my son and my wife were giving me some grief about that. And I said, they're just big cows. And so I started getting out.
Hold on. Let me throw in a disclaimer. Trailblazing Texas podcast doesn't support the actions of its guests as it relates to wildlife. So, Greg S is on his own with this one.
Yeah, well, I didn't get out of the car, just so you know.
Okay.
We just got pictures, but yeah, they were adamant about letting their dad get out of the car, or her husband.
That's just like saying, yeah, we pulled in the park and I threw my McDonald's bag out the window. I'm like, oh. No. Jason, what about you? Any favorite state parks? We know no national parks.
State parks, Garner State Park is the one I've been to
Yeah.
the most as a family. And I mean, I enjoyed the hiking you can do, climbing Baldy and some of the caving and then swimming. I mean, it's got a lot to do. And of course the nightly dancing.
John loves, what do you call it? The Icebox Cave?
Yeah. Yeah. I loved it for about however many meters it was that we went in. But I started getting claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And I got to a spot that was a little bit wide. I told Greg, this is as far as I go. I can't go any further.
But a tent doesn't bother you.
But,
Yeah.
A tiny tent's good.
No.
He's got that single man. He's all right.
Look, there's a difference between a tiny tent and walls of granite or rock or whatever it was.
Yeah, because if you go to sleep in that cave, you'll cause what
Yeah.
So John, what's your? Go ahead.
I was just going to say to the listeners out there, there's a reason my name is Buzzsaw.
Yeah, John's trail name is Buzzsaw, and for all of us that have hiked with him, we can definitely attest to that.
It's fast too.
Yeah, he goes to sleep. What is that narcolepsy where you just like?
Yeah, it's like 30 seconds.
Yes. So John, what about you? What's your favorite state park?
I don't know that the favorite. Well, I would have to say my favorite park. I don't know if I can say a state park, but Lost Maples was really my favorite park ever going to.
Yeah.
Just with the sheer beauty of it. You know, the rock formations. There's a little waterfall. It was just absolutely gorgeous. And I'm sure like Palo Duro's, it's beautiful in its own way, right? But two very different ecosystems, and that's my preference anyway. I don't know that it's a state park, but it was a park that was beautiful.
And actually, I think if you're into leaf changing and during that time, October, November, that's probably the most popular with seeing those types of things is Lost Maples.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and it's not it's manageable even for a novice hiker. My wife was able to do it with no problem. So, going to see it, you don't have to have a lot of experience. There's some elevation change, but it's not terrible.
Yeah.
So.
And so for me, everybody knows Guadalupe Mountains. That's my heaven on earth. And what I like about it, it's the least visited or one of the least visited national parks in the country. Where I'm at now in the park, so I've hiked and backpacked the whole park, and I'm in areas where I don't ever see anybody for the whole trip. So, you get up around Dog Canyon, you just see mountain lion footprints, some deer, and that's about it.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever camped? You know how you're going up and then you got that spot right before you hit the peak and the campers are right there because they do it to go to El Capitan?
Yeah, so I haven't done all the backcountry campsites. That's the next goal. So I've hiked the whole park. Now it's trying to hit all the backcountry campsites.
But that one camping spot, the only one on the trail,
Yeah,
you've
it's
stayed there?
Huh?
You camped there?
No, not yet.
Okay. Yeah, because it's windy and seems like it would be cold.
Yeah, you get in that area, especially when the weather's changing and you're hitting 70, 80, 90
Yeah.
miles per hour wind, and
It's like a hurricane.
yeah. So we've even seen, because I usually start hiking now anywhere in the park, starting probably 3:30 in the morning. But before that, we would start kind of early, but we would be catching backpackers coming down, and like their tent poles were broken, due to the wind.
Wow.
The whole tent was just collapsed on them. Like, so we've heard some pretty cool stories, you know, with people experiencing the high winds at Guad, and you better be checking the wind every couple of hours before you head out, and even while you're out, because it changes.
Yeah, that'd be scary.
And I think for my state park, it's Caprock. You go there, you do see some people, but it's kind of like the step brother of Paladuro, just like Guadalupe is the step brother of Big Bend. But it's low volumes of people when I go, and a lot of times where I'm at, you may see a tent over here, a tent over there, but it just, you have that feeling of, the whole park is to yourself. All right, so Greg, what is your favorite trail and why?
On the Lone Star?
Anywhere. You have the whole state of Texas to pick your favorite trail. Most meaningful favorite?
I have to say, I don't know the trail. It's on the Lone Star hiking trail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the trailhead, but it's the one where like the trail is kind of
Trailhead
elevated.
15. Yeah, Trailhead 15.
Is it 15? And it's like swamp area, and it's just
Yes.
amazing
It's
view. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's like
So
you're on a
I
delta
enjoy that
kinda.
walk. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, it's probably my favorite. And I know you didn't ask my second favorite, but my second favorite is in Paladuro, and I don't even know what the name of it is. There's just caves off in there, and
Yeah,
you just go through there and find a bunch of caves. We climbed to the top of them, and yeah, it was very nice.
cool. All right, Jason, what about you?
I don't have these trail markers down like you guys did. I was a follower, but I can describe it, and I guarantee you can figure it out.
Well, we'll
Similar
see.
to Greg, that's a good. I forgot about that section, Greg. That's a tough one to compete with. I don't know if those were old railroad tracks or what those were that we were walking on.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's a section. It's the section. It's almost like you're in a double canopy, and we're following a stream. It's where I want to say it's where we had to cross the other side of where we crossed the river.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the San Jacinto? Yeah.
And if that's the night where we camped, where we thought John might have got hit by a truck doing donuts in the parking
Yeah,
lot.
that's Trailhead 10 heading to 11.
Yeah, that whole section, the trees were so tall, and there was like smaller trees underneath them, and they got the stream. And it was otherworldly. It was very cool.
Oh yeah, God rays.
I mean, even the first day, the first trailhead had similar looking views. It was just different though. It was like we were kind of like in some valleys. It was more grand looking, and it was just it was cool. It was really cool. It was like very as a kid imagining like adventures and stuff. That's kind of what I always imagined it would look like.
Yeah.
In the forest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't really see much sky. You really were underneath there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. What about you, John?
Well, if I'll do two first. If we're looking at segments of the Lone Star Trail, I would have to agree with Greg. I like that. I like the one that's on that. You got the elevated section going through, and there's all kinds of marshland and swampy areas on the sides. It's very picturesque, but just in overall beauty, accessibility, the scenery. I have to go back to the Lost Maples Trail. I really love that location.
All right. And I think for me, and I think I've mentioned it before, I've only had one trail to break me, and it's actually my favorite trail, and it is at Guadalupe Mountain National Park, and it's the El Capitan Trail. So it's not to the El Capitan Peak, because that's not trailed, but it goes around the base of it. When we did it, we started out kind of late, so I was kind of cocky. So I looked at the map, I looked at the elevation. I'm like, oh, it's kind of flat, no big deal. So we got a late start. It's 9 miles to get to Shumard campsite where we were going to camp. And so, we're hiking out there. We round El Cap, and then the trail just disappears, and you're walking on rock for probably about a mile, and then you cut up into these canyons that are completely overgrown. You have probably 300 to 400 feet of exposure, like you can't see where your feet are being placed, and so mentally it was starting to wear on me. And then we got cliffed out twice, meaning that we thought we were on the trail, and then it just was a sheer drop off. So we had to then go back and rehike probably a half a mile of what we were just on. Then the sun was disappearing. It was getting dark. When we finally made it to Shumard, it was dark. So setting up camp, and I told Sam and Henning, I'm like, look, I'm going to hike the 10 miles out to the highway, and I'm hitchhiking. I'm not doing this trail again. And so that's what we did. We went out and hitchhiked. And then Lori saw the picture of us in the back of a truck, and so I got in trouble for that one. She was pissed. But yeah, that's my.
Is that the one where you showed me where you were like basically laying on your stomach because it just no footing as you're going to El Capitan?
No. That's actually hiking to El Capitan Peak. So this trail kind of goes around the bottom of it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And that trail broke me, and I'm not. I definitely can admit to it, but it's my favorite trail, and you kind of walk past.
Why is that your favorite? Because you got broke.
Yeah, that's why.
Oh.
And you walk by William Creek Ranch House, which was built in the early 1900s, and you can still walk through there. So it's pretty spectacular and special.
I just looked to my left, and I have to show you something that you'll enjoy, Jason.
Yep.
My wife had this made for me. I don't know how she did it.
Oh, wow. Are you
put that on and she took a picture.
Are you a Spanish captain?
I guess. She did that for like my birthday. I don't know, man, like 6 years ago.
El Capitan.
And what's
Yeah,
El Capitan. And what's scary is it's still sitting in your room.
She looks at it.
Yeah.
That's how she tells me goodbye and good night in the evening. She just stares at that. That's what she thinks. That's what she wants me to be.
Mm-hmm. The El Capitan. All right, Jason. So, what would you consider your most memorable or emotional hike that you've ever been on?
I mean, obviously, the Lone Star Hiking Trail for me. One of the most memorable parts of the hike out of those, what do we do? 5, 6 days? 6 days?
6 days.
5.5. Yeah,
5.5.
Was about the first 3 hours or 4 hours, because I was so nervous that I wasn't prepared. I'd be honest, I really didn't know if I could complete it. Right.
Yeah.
I was going to try.
Right.
Me and Greg talked about this a lot, and I'm like, if you're going to keep going, I'm going to keep going. But if you tap out, I'm probably, and it was exciting, right? It was like those kind of nerves, right? Like, I can't believe I'm doing this, and all the unknowns for me. Because remember, I think I did 1 or 2 hikes with you, like prep hikes.
Yeah.
Right.
To that section where Lake Conroe is. That's it. I'd never seen any other part of the trail ever. And so that was everything for me was just brand new and like unknown. And it was really exciting, exhilarating. And I was just like smiling, like for the first few hours, just kept like, can't believe we're doing this, man.
Yeah.
Like it was just, and I still think about that. Those first few hours, I always reflect back on how exciting, because it's adventurous, right? And I don't know, a kid growing up in the 80s, 90s, the movies we watched and stuff, I still yearn for like adventurous things. And damn it, I was finally doing something like that. It was cool.
John, what about you?
I have to agree with Jason. I mean that first segment, I was scared too. I again, starting this hiking stuff at that time, I was a novice. I didn't know. I felt pretty good about the first couple days, but I was nervous about blisters. I was nervous about my endurance and me being. I mean, I'm the oldest guy out there by several years, and just had no confidence in myself. I shouldn't say confidence. I felt good about doing it. I just didn't know how my body was going to hold up. You know, after it was day 3, day 4 that I was really worried about with my endurance and how my body was going to hold up, if my feet were going to start hurting again, if I was going to develop a blister. But
I was really worried about your toes. You were clearing the trail. You were doing trail maintenance on roots.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
He would kick the crap out of roots.
Found every root on the trail.
Mhm.
I'm surprised I didn't come out of there with a twisted ankle. It was,
Yeah.
but
And you were just coming off of wearing boots because of foot issues.
yes, and it was on. It wasn't just one foot; it was both my feet. I was walking around in those boots, and I think I did that. I had to sleep in them. I mean, I did it for 2 months, I think,
Yeah.
before the hike. But you know that Jason described it perfectly. The excitement, you know, 4 guys just with our backpacks on and going into this adventure that we really didn't know what was going to happen, or you know what would happen, and it was exciting. You know,
Yeah.
I was like a little kid on Christmas morning when we first started. I think somebody mentioned, just wait, you'll have those "what am I doing here" moments. And I had several of those through the hike. It was like, oh my God, what have I done? But it look, man, it was you know, everybody suffered. We all, I mean, some of us more than others. I don't know how Greg did it with his toe. I know you had a blister too, didn't you, Jason?
Not
Lomanak,
oh, yeah.
didn't you have a blister?
I had my whole feet taped up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was
Had a
taping mine
bunch.
up in advance, just watching you guys. Like, oh, and if I felt a little hot spot, I'd tape it up, man.
Yeah.
I don't even think I needed
Yeah.
to wear shoes after I was done. I had so much tape on them.
I was extremely fortunate that I didn't get. I had a few hot spots, but you know, as you said, I kept them taped up, and I don't know if it was the shoes. Lomanek, you turned me on to those
Ultras.
the ultras the trail runners that I've got them on right now.
Yeah, they're awesome
They're-
shoes.
Very comfortable shoes.
All right, Greg, what about you? What is your most emotional or meaningful hiking trip or
Well, it's an interesting
experience
question.
you've
What
had?
do you mean by emotional? Are you talking about challenges, or are you talking about just
I don't
like emotion?
here on the Trailblazing Texas podcast, it's your interpretation.
Okay, so I'll give you both.
Okay.
So my probably the most difficult emotional challenge I had. There's 2 actually. One was Bear Canyon, which you watched that. I'm sure we'll get into that at some point.
Yep.
And then the second one was Lone Star Hike and Trail, right towards the end, the day of the roots, right before we get to where we camped where John got mud slung on him. Those roots, there was no part of my foot that wasn't damaged or deep bruised, not my heel, sides, anything. And it seemed like forever, just walking on roots. There's nothing I could do for the pain. So I just had to go through it. So challenging, those 2 were the most difficult. As far as just emotional in general, there were just
or
sometimes-
memorable, like memorable hikes could also be included.
I would say when I hit Guadalupe Peak is whenever I said there's God.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it was a man. I hated coming down. John, coming down is
my
just
God.
brutal.
Yes.
I start walking backwards because my knees and legs hurt so bad. But yeah, hitting the peak is just an amazing sight.
Yeah. And I know, like, memorable, emotional, like, you and I have had some pretty memorable, emotional hikes.
Greg, you remember when we were coming down Guadalupe, Greg and I were both struggling. We were walking very slow. Our feet were just torn apart. I think my toenails turned purple for a year.
Yeah.
And
Mine still are not healed. They're
Yep.
still messed up.
do you remember we were about halfway down and we met that she must have been 70 years old
Oh yeah.
going up, and she's moving like she saw us that morning going up, like she saw our flashlights because it was dark when we started up the trail. But this lady, 70 years old or however old she was, moving through that trail like nobody's business. I mean, she says she hikes it all the time. So
Yeah. Her name is actually, I think it's Pam. She's a ranger there.
Yeah, that's her.
okay, yeah.
Oh yeah. She's, I think last time I talked to her, and it's funny because I was in the Pine Springs Visitor Center, and I was talking to another hiker, telling him where the B-24 plane crash was, and you're not supposed to go there. And she walked around the corner, and as I'm explaining to where it is, she's just kind of looking at me, and then I catch that she's looking at me, and then I'm looking at her, and as I'm telling him, yeah, it's the second peak, blah blah, walk this ridge line, and she's looking at me, and she just kind of like like gave me the not the okay, but I, like we're
First phase of your interview for Rangers completed.
Yeah. And then right after that, I'm going, oh yeah, there's Jose's grave too, and blah blah blah, and she's like, isn't that on private property? And I'm like, she goes, I don't think you probably should be, you're supposed to be going there. And I'm like, yeah, I think so. But I pick up so much trash on that guy's land, so he will definitely maybe thank me for it.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I'm guessing you didn't talk to him.
Well, I've tried to find the landowner, and okay, when I say try, like maybe look in a little bit here and there, but not really. But I definitely want to reach out to
Just
them.
buy it.
Oh, I wish.
I'll get it for you. You
Yep,
just
thank
give me the coordinates. In 5 minutes, I'll have you that name.
All right, awesome. And I think, like, for me, again, Greg, we've had some memorable, emotional hikes. I think one is finishing, and we'll get into this a little bit later. One is finishing the Lone Star hiking trail. I mean, like, I was in tears when we finished. And you always hear about people hiking the AT or the PCT, them able, finishing, touching that last little point in the trail, and then just breaking down in tears. And like, we don't have no AT or PCT, so we're, right at 100 miles. And yeah, it was emotional. And, the accomplishment that you feel starting the hike, like you guys said, was the unknown. Like we none of us had an idea of what to expect, how we would hold up. So from an accomplishment, it was pretty memorable. My hike to do El Capitan Peak was pretty memorable, and that's the one where I started hiking up back to Guadalupe Peak and realized that I was actually rock climbing, and if I slipped, I was probably going to die. That was pretty memorable. And and then we did the quad. So we hiked to Guadalupe Peak, and then from there we hiked to Shumard, Bartlett, and Bush. And that was probably the hardest, most difficult hike that I've done.
Bartlett,
And,
is that where the cabin is?
No. It's so when you're either looking at Guadalupe Mountains or you're on Guadalupe Mountain Peak, it's the peaks that are, let's say if I'm looking at El Capitan, it's the peaks that are to the left. And if I'm on El Cap, I mean, you're facing west, it's those peaks.
Okay.
And so you just go off trail and you start going through the canyons and trying to figure out, looking at a map, how to get out there. And that was pretty memorable. And so I think we've already talked about, y'all's most difficult hikes? Mine was or backpacking trips. Mine was El Cap, and I think earlier you guys were talking about what about most breathtaking views. So if you're talking to a new hiker or backpacker, where are you telling them to go to kind of just have the most breathtaking views while hiking and backpacking?
I'll start just I think from in my experience, top to bottom, the views on Guadalupe Peak are amazing. Even if you're not at the peak, just in the process of going up, there was one area I remember where you have to cross a bridge, and you kind of, I don't know, it's difficult to describe, but you can look back and there's a valley that goes down, and it's just, I was constantly looking at, everything around me. Just, it was so spectacular.
Yeah, John left me for like 30 minutes to take a picture of the sunrise.
Yeah.
And I was freezing my ass off because it was snowing or something.
Yeah, there was when Greg and I went, there was snow on the trail. It had just snowed, and we left early enough that had we been in any kind of shape, we should have made it to the top. I wanted to get a time lapse view of the sunrise.
Right.
Unfortunately, we only made it about 3/4 of the way. So I set my camera up on the trail and got a time lapse of what I could get, but it wasn't the peak. It was still pretty nice, but
right.
Yeah.
I was like, what's
cold.
he doing? It's right where the trees are, when you're going through and you got the trees and it's bed area and you're going up. It was right there.
Yeah. There's just beyond that, Greg, was the when we went around the there's a rock formation that we went around, and when we crossed to the other side, the wind was just blasting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you listened to the Lori's the very first episode of the podcast, but we were talking about that same thing. So it's right when you finish all the crappy part, the first 3/4 of a mile, and you round that corner, and man, the wind just pinned us down. And I was like, I want to quit and go back. She steps around me and is like, we can't stay here. We have to go. and so she starts heading back. And I'm like, well, I'm not quitting if she's not going to quit. And so that's what I'm thinking. In her mind, she's thinking, we can't stay here. We have to go, to get into the trees to get some relief. And Jason's not going to quit. And so we just have to go. And so it's kind of funny. We were thinking totally opposite. All right, Jason, what about you?
Yeah, I don't have much experience.
Your son comes up to you and goes, Dad, I want to see some cool stuff.
Let's go to the tollway bridge.
Tollway bridge, yeah. All right.
No, I mean the only mountain or hill, I don't know if you count it a mountain or not, but Garner State Park, Baldy,
yeah,
is the only thing of any real elevation in Texas I've ever climbed.
It doesn't have to be just breathtaking views. It could be wildflowers. Like the prettiest place in Washington is right below Mount Rainier.
Man, there was a place. There was a state park. I cannot remember the name. I don't even know that I looked at the name, but it was up almost Oklahoma. I was traveling for work, and it was like the sun was going down, and I usually if I drive by a state park or something that looks unique, I'll pull in there just to get a look at it, and see if it's something I want to explore later. And that one had there was a lake, and they had these weird kind of rock formations that overhung, so you could kind of go up underneath them to go fish or whatever. And then just, I don't know, there's something about North Texas sunsets that to me look better than they do down here in Houston. The colors are better. It was like copper. Let's say copper.
Oh, Copper Breaks.
It was Copper Breaks, maybe. Yeah, I can't remember. But that's for views. For me, it's Garner, and then just kind of the topography and sunsets up north. So,
Greg, what about you?
I'm going to say it's going to be the lighthouse in Palo Duro.
Yeah.
You go up, and the lighthouse is just an amazing structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we get up there, myself, Dylan, Carrie, and we're doing our thing about Trey up there. And then Dylan decides so the lighthouse has the thing that's called where's my hand? Okay. The lighthouse, and then behind it is another one, right?
And that wraps up another exciting episode of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode today, and stay tuned for our next episode where we will pick back up where we left off and guarantee to uncover many more hiking gems and share many more tips to enhance your experience on the trail. Until then, happy trails and happy hiking.